driving through the mountains, and I just pulled over for a second to set this camera up, get back on the highway, and then we can chit-chat about some stuff, because, man, I have some thoughts going on now. It's not hitting any trucks. First of all, some of you are going to notice, some of you that know me know I live in Connecticut. There are not mountains like this in Connecticut. So I am not in Connecticut anymore. Now, these mountains are just stunning. I don't know how much is coming through on this camera, but it's just beautiful. The roads are perfect. The mountains are tall. It's the greenest green I've ever seen. In fact, the last time I saw this green, I was in Germany, which is a whole other story, but this place is just stunningly beautiful. So I'll leave the camera on, obviously. We're going to be seeing lots of road signs. Someone can probably figure out where I am, and that's kind of the area that we're moving to. But I love living in the mountains. I love the greenery. I love the nature. So we are getting out of Connecticut. We're going here in these tall, beautiful, majestic mountains. So we're doing that. But one of the reasons why I wanted to start talking today is because I had a couple of thoughts. Now, as I was leaving Connecticut, I passed through Sandy Hook, Newtown, where they had that shooting event a couple of years ago. Everybody remembers it. In order to not get demonetized, I'm going to say it was just an event. Are there questions? Oh yeah, I got some questions. But I think that's about when things started to change. And what I mean by change is that Connecticut wasn't that bad. It was, the taxes were high and there's political corruption, but you can find that anywhere. That's no big deal. A couple of corrupt governors, whole bunch of corrupt politicians, I think a sheriff or two, but that's fine. But right after that, and some are saying it was a planned event. I wouldn't want to dare speculate something like that. But it was a very odd event, and directly after that, something changed. And, you get that conspiracy theory where if you don't want to make an opportunity to get wasted. It was at the Rahm Emanuel, I think. You don't want to let a crisis go to waste, is what he said. So they had this shooting in Newtown, Sandy Hook. And a kid, Adam Lanza, 65-pound, scrawny little kid, had a 100% perfect bullseye accuracy. But so, sure, that's fine. We'll believe that. Anyway, that's the event I'm talking about. And right after that, they passed some of the strictest gun laws in Connecticut you've ever heard of. Second Amendment, they just threw that right in the trash. So then all semi-automatic rifles gone. So you can't get an AR, any platform like that. You can't get an AK. You can't get a Ruger Mini 14. Okay? Anything that any long rifle, one trigger pull equals one bullet. You can't get those anymore. Shotguns, fine. Bolt action, fine. Revolvers, fine. Handguns. What about those? No, you can't have those that carry more than 7 bullets. 7. So what they did is they make special magazines for all the standard guns, and they just crimp the magazines down so you can't load more than 7 in there. The springs are the same, the shape is the same, everything's the same, and you could actually put the standard 10, 12 rounds in the magazine, but there's a little pinch in there from the factory. You can't push them down any further. It's hilarious. So no handguns with more than 7 bullets, no semi-automatic, nothing. So what they say is throughout history is when you take away the guns from the people, then the government can pretty much do whatever they want because there's no more resistance. It's like it happened in England, it happened in Australia, 2 great examples. I think Cuba also took away all the guns. And every communist dictatorship took away all the guns because once the people are disarmed, they can literally do whatever they want. And a small version of that is what happened in Connecticut. They made it very, very hard to get a new registration to be able to own guns. You can't even buy ammunition without a pistol permit, which takes forever to get and it's expensive. So it's a nonsense state. The point is, things happened after they started putting in all these regulations about how people could get firearms to protect themselves, or even to hunt, or to whatever, any firearms for any reason, anything. So then they started doing the sanctuary cities in Connecticut. Now, Connecticut's really tiny. It's a little tiny block of a state up in New England. One of the smallest states. If you were to drop it in Texas, I think you could fit like 70 of them in Texas or something silly like that. But anyway, real small. Point I'm making, small state. There are 3 sanctuary cities in Connecticut: Bridgeport, New Haven, and Hartford. And once they started to establish their sanctuary citydom, they started filling up. And they started filling up fast. Now, I've been to Bridgeport a couple of times. I used to have to go there for work. And it's all Spanish. The signs are in Spanish. They press 1 for English for everything. So they kind of lost that city to immigrants from South America. It started off in Puerto Rico, and they put in the roots. They started getting Spanish-speaking stores and more bodegas and more, Spanish cultural things, a lot of Spanish churches. And then the Venezuelans, the El Salvadors, the Brazilians, the Colombians, they all started coming up just in mass. And Connecticut wouldn't do anything about people getting employed without proper paperwork. So you come in, you don't speak any English, you need to find a job, there's lots of places that'll hire you. No questions asked, don't care, good to go. So then they started bringing their cousins and their family and their mom and their sister and their brothers. And there are literally entire blocks where it's a practical no-go zone. It's all Spanish all the time. It's run by a mini cartel. And that's just what Bridgeport is now. And the same with parts of New Haven. New Haven, there's parts where they don't speak any English anymore. And it's turning into Hartford too. North end of Hartford, the crime rate is so high. It's just brutal. It's just brutal. So that's another side effect of these sanctuary cities. The high crime, no one speaks English. You get the diversification you want, but you don't get the unification. So these people are building their own little enclaves where they stick to each other. They all stay in the same neighborhoods. They all talk to each other. They all do business with each other. And it's not the utopia of diversity that we were promised. They're like, we're going to buy our own Spanish products. We're going to eat in our own Spanish restaurants. We're going to go to our own Spanish churches. And we're not going to integrate at all. And they're not going to learn English at all. And they barely pay taxes if they're forced to. They don't have a driver's license. They don't have insurance. And they don't get arrested for crimes. So that's Bridgeport, New Haven, and Hartford. You're just getting this rampant influx of all these people. And a long time ago, this is a joke they used to make 30, 40 years ago, that Connecticut was the whitest state. Because it was. It was 92 to 96% white. And I did a video on that a long time ago when we were talking about school districts, how they've gone down a lot. Another part is, all these immigrants have flooded the schools. Now, Connecticut used to have great schools. They still have some good schools, but Harvard, Yale, Ivy League stuff. And in West Hartford, Farmington, real nice, rich, wealthy parts of the state, they've had to start changing the school curriculum because there are so many kids that don't speak English, or they speak English at such a poor level that it's just not working. So they can either fail all the kids, or they lower the standards so they can pass more. Well, they took the easy way out. They started lowering standards. So they lower and lower and lower. Now, in East Hartford, West Hartford's kind of nice, a little wealthy, more upper class, very expensive, great restaurants. East Hartford, on the other side of the river, it's all being taken over by immigrants. So there's African restaurants in East Hartford, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't care, but I'm just saying that they weren't there a couple of years ago. And there, in fact, across the street, place where I go to walk my dogs, there is an African bodega where there's always 20 people parked in front, hanging out front. I think they're from Ghana. They don't speak a word of English. And there's a convenience store, and there's always people up front, but they don't sell anything. There's nothing there. A couple cans of tomato sauce, canned fish. They have a broken down fridge in the back, and it's just people just milling about all day long. So either they're selling something that's not groceries, or they're not selling anything at all. It's just a community meetup spot to trade information, or who knows what, being a little speculative. But I'm telling you, they're not selling groceries. And across the street from that is another little itty bitty tiny African restaurant. And they've got like 4 things on the menu. And I don't know what any of them are. I'm classically culinary trained. Right? I used to run the really, really nice restaurants. I know a lot about food. I don't know what they're serving. There's one thing on the menu called Red. I'm not sure what that is. I could go look it up, it's fine, but you should be able to look at a menu and go, oh, there's something here I can eat. I don't know what red is. So it's funny. But let's talk about taking my dogs for a walk. We go down to this park, it's not too far from me. A little trip through the woods. Dogs love it, we go for a run. And there's a community pool, a couple of basketball courts, a little play set for the kids, a little gym kind of thing. And just recently, well, for the last 10 years, maybe longer, there was a fence around the pool. And it was a 4-foot tall chain link fence, standard fence, no problem. Well, just over the winter, just this year, they took that fence down and they put up a 12-foot tall fence with the itty bitty bitty tiny little chain link so you can't climb it. And I said, well, what's that for? And the reason why is because there are so many immigrants and so much crime that they are worried about people that can't swim breaking into the pool and drowning. So they had to put up a giant security fence that's unclimbable because we have people that want to commit crime, might not know how to swim. I think that might be a stereotype on the kind of people that can't swim this joke. So instead of saying, hey, you have to follow our rules when you come to the country, you can't do this anymore, they say, no, we're going to let them in, we're going to let them commit crime, but we're going to put up a fence so they don't do that. I'm thinking to myself, why don't you just tell them to stop doing crime? No, we're not going to do that. We're not going to tell them to stop doing crime. We're going to put up a fence so it's harder to do crime and it's uglier. That's the solution. Okay, well that's fun. So they won't tell them to stop doing crime, but everyone else now has to suffer. Obviously, I am at a toll booth going to give my money to the state to drive on these lovely roads. Give me just a second on this. I'm kind of curious how much it's going to cost too, because I am big moving way. Let's see how this works. Hey now, I'm good. Can I get a receipt with that, please? Thanks a bunch. Have a great day. All right. God, they're so nice here. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you. You having a good day? I love this place. You don't get this in Connecticut, man. Everyone is just so mean and rude, and they're in a hurry, and they're just I'm just like, hey guys, I'm here. Oh, we're glad you're here. I love it. Man, this is great. This place is just beautiful. All right, start raining again. This might get hard to hear if it's raining, but we'll do our best. Oh, look at these mountains. Man, look at these mountains. Anyway. All right, so back to Connecticut and their problems. So what we were talking about is the pool and the crime and how they're dealing with it. And it's funny because there's another bit of crime that's starting to happen. And street takeovers. I've been talking about this before. I've made videos about it once or twice. The street takeovers are where a handful of cars will block off an entire intersection so that they can do burnouts and car tricks in the center of the intersection. And they leave these, donuts and all the marks all over the road, what have you. That's a big intersection near downtown. And you notice that it's just covered now in these round tire marks, just doing donuts in the street. Now there's cops in town. It's a small town. I don't live in a big town. So they could do this pretty easily. They could just show up. The police station is only about 1.5 miles away from where they do these burnouts. You can hear it because all these cars have no exhausts, because why would they need to get emissions inspection when they don't have a license or insurance? So they're all just stolen cars doing burnouts. Now the cops can come and shut it down. But they don't. They just turn an eye to it, turn a blind eye, look away, nothing to see here, too much hassle. So there's also a group, now they're just starting to get warm. Let me get back to the warm in a minute. Because it's starting to get warm, people are taking their motorcycles out. Now there are motorcycle gangs, not real gangs, but groups of motorcycles that ride up and down East Hartford. All the motorcycles are on one wheel. Doing wheelies throughout the entire town. They don't stop for red lights. They zigzag around traffic. They drive in between lanes. They will drive in the bike lane. They will drive on the sidewalk. They'll do anything they want. They'll drive into opposing traffic just to get around a car that's perhaps moving too slow for them. All right? Very dangerous. Now, the bikes are fun because they travel in packs of 6 to 15, just giant pack of bikes. Just all through town, all day, all night, on one wheel, zigzagging through traffic, so you get the picture. But they started doing it with these little ATVs too, little four-wheel trail runner things. Now, they're going through town on 2 wheels. So the funny thing is, if you're on a motorcycle or one of these little ATVs and you've got the front wheels popped up in the air, your headlight is pointed towards the sky. So all the other traffic, they can no longer see you coming. So they're zigzagging through traffic. You can't see them at night. And I can't wait for one of them to play the zigzag in front of a moving car game, time it just a little bit wrong, and get run the fuck over. Now that would be an absolute tragedy because a life would be lost. But would it really be a tragedy? I'm not so sure. That's just my opinion. I might be wrong on that one. But anyway, so they don't arrest them. They're allowed to run wild, run free. They pull up to a stoplight, and if there's no one in, they just go. They just go right through it. So if there's another one of their friends going the other way with their headlight pointing up in the air, and they can't see them, and they just run right through the red light, yeah, you're going to get idiot on idiot crime, which probably is okay with me. So, another thing that Connecticut did right around, actually this just happened about 2 years ago, but they started it the same time that they criminalized gun ownership for all intents and purposes. Now, they put in a legislation to decriminalize marijuana. Now, a lot of people have a lot of thoughts on that. Here's the thing. This is the perfect example of a slippery slope argument. Oh, you should be able to let people do whatever they want if it doesn't hurt anyone else, says the libertarian. Yeah, okay, I get that. But you get the slippery slope of if somebody wants to sit at home and smoke weed, okay, great. Watch TV, watch Beavis and Butthead, watch a marathon of housewives of Who Gives a Head. Anyway, you want to smoke weed, that's fine. But now they've decriminalized it, and people smoke weed everywhere, constantly. Everything smells like weed. And they just passed the law. It was medical use only, had to get a weed card for a couple of years, and a few dispensaries popped up here and there. But now, just recently, I think it was a year, maybe a year and a half ago, I don't know, it doesn't really matter. They made it full recreational use anywhere, anytime, no questions asked. I think you have to be 21, but I'm not so sure they enforce that rule really well. And there are weed shops everywhere. You can't throw a rock without hitting a weed dispensary or a place that just sells vapes and all this other crap. Wow, this rain's getting hard. It's probably going to be really hard to see me. I'm going to have to listen to this back and see if it even was worth doing. But there's a couple of funny examples. There was a state police building. It was the... God, this rain is bad. You're not going to be able to hear this at all, I'm afraid. But there was a state police building that closed down. It was the union for the state police reps. And it closed down, and now it's a weed shop. There used to be a Friendly's ice cream shop, weed shop. There used to be a place that sold Oriental rugs, weed shop. There used to be a little bodega, weed shop. Everything's a weed shop now. It's just everywhere. It's out of control. Everything smells like weed, and you can see people driving down the road just smoking the fattest blunt you've ever seen, just blowing puffs of smoke out the window. And it's not that fake smoke stuff, it's actual rolled blunts, like Snoop Dogg or Willie Nelson driving down the road. So these people have cars in, I don't know what condition. They're high as balls. They drive without following any stop signs, road signs, stoplights, nothing, yield, merge. They don't know how to do anything. And they're high, and they have no insurance. That's what Connecticut is turning into. All right, the rain is getting way too bad, so I'm going to wrap this up. But that's my rant on Connecticut, and that's why I wanted to get the hell out. And now I'm living in these beautiful mountains. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. If the weather clears up a little bit, gets to be where it's drivable, and you guys can hear me, I'll put another video on. But for now, I gotta go. I'll see you. Bye-bye.